Get the tools you need to become a free and independent trainer with my Dumbbells to Dollars course at www.dumbbells2dollars.com. How you doing, everybody? Jonathan here. And in this video, your original Fit Boss has brought in Bobby the Brain Linkul out of Sacramento, California. And we are going to talk about programming because I got a lot of questions on programming about a week ago, 2 weeks ago when I did a nutrition video. Somebody said they want to see a program video. And it just so happens that on President's Day, Rob posted this amazing workout program. And I think it's going to be very helpful for you guys to see how Rob breaks his down. Obviously, I have my own style, but this may be something that's more toward your liking. So, Robert, first of all, thanks for coming in. Thanks for sharing, and thanks for teaching with me today.
Yeah, my pleasure. I love talking programming, so this is a treat for me.
All right, awesome. So I am going to share this if I can figure out how to do it the way that I did it before. You should see a little me and a little Robert and a big program. How are we looking?
I don't see me, but that's okay. I do see you.
All right. Well,
that's
I
all
see
that matters.
Everything is perfect right now. Do you see your program?
Okay, let's do it. Yep, I got it.
Okay, so I mean, you always talk about a philosophy. So does this stem from your philosophy?
Absolutely. I will look for inspiration for fun workouts like this in any way that I can. And so with President's Day, we really had a lot of fun with this and being able to create a workout and multiple workouts, really, as you see here, for 42 clients that came in with us on the holiday, but it addressed every single one of these addressed every component that I needed in my blueprint. Okay. So the blueprint is very, very simple. I love simple. I love simple well. We have, for all of our clients, there's two blueprints, one for general pops and the one for older adult. I'm going to do older adult since it's kind of our area of expertise.
Sure.
So the older adult has a requirement, and we focus typically in this order. The hinging component comes first. A rowing component comes second. A raise or a shoulder dominant movement comes third. A split stance, third. A split stance exercise comes fourth, and then a carry, what we consider a transfer, is fifth. And so we will try to emphasize those movements in that order as early as and as often as we can in our workouts, specifically with the older adult, because the hinge and the rowing components are the two most important ones in my opinion. Okay. Posterior dominant, working with the hip, the shoulder, getting it strong. So we take those components, and we know those are things that we need. And because we have, 2 or maybe 3 workouts a week with a client, and that's all we're going to get, and that's pretty much all the workouts that they're doing, we will, in a sense, with everything else, we will do 2 to 1 of everything else. So every hinge, we'll do 2 hinges to 1 shoulder dominant. We'll do 2 rows to 1 split stance. We'll work the backside of the body double, basically, is what we're focusing on.
Sure.
So we make sure that when we go through, we have all 5 of those components together, and then we have a base level or introductory level exercises of each one of those. A base level hinge would be most of our bridges on the floor, and then the next level would be vertical components, like an RDL, a good morning, something along those lines. We'll do those deloaded, and then we'll do them with some load. And then we consider a hinge with a bent knee also a deadlift. That would be our most advanced hinge. And so depending on where our clients are and where they're progressing, we will pick one of those hinges, and then the same for the rows, same for the presses, and so on. So it's a little gridded blueprint that I have. If you've looked on my YouTube or on my Facebook page, I share that all over the place. You can take a look at that. And John, I can send it to you. I can email it to you so you could share it with everybody here.
Sure.
And so with that, on this holiday, we decided, okay, we have our emphasis areas we're going to focus on. Let's have a little fun with it, and we're going to try to rhyme and bring in as many presidents to this as we could to celebrate the president's holiday. So we had the Lincoln landmine presses. That was our shoulder movement. We had a Roosevelt rack squat. That gives us our hinge component. We do sit to stands, and we call them hinge squats with our older adults, really with all of our clients, because we want to emphasize the idea that your hips have to move first. Right. Especially with older adults, they've been told for so long and for so many times that they have a back issue or a hip issue that they need to to focus on lifting with their knees. and that puts them so vertical that they abuse their knees. So we really emphasize the idea of moving the hips first before they go into a squat position. So we call those sit to stands or hip squats, as we'll go through.
Okay.
And then our Reagan rows, we get them inverted underneath. We use the angle 90 handles. We have all kinds of different variations that they can get inverted or reclined.
Now, where are the Reagan rows?
This is top right as we're looking at workout A.
Got it.
Yeah, so we have that one. And then we have the bush ball slams, which we like to do any kind of slamming components, especially for our older adults, kneeling. So we'll have them on both knees, teaching a big hip displacement component. And the reason that we do that is not because the leverage system is too long for them to slam, but in most cases, it's harder for them to pick the ball up correctly.
Wow.
So the
I was going to ask you why you do the kneeling, but that makes perfect sense.
With hip replacement clients, knee replacements clients, we have 4 or 5 clients that have had knee replacements, and I've heard other trainers say, like, I can't believe you have them kneel down. Their knee is titanium. Kneeling on it with their body weight's not going to jack them up, and that's as long as you're post-op, I'd say 3 months minimum, and as long as they're comfortable with their scar tissue and such, then I don't see a problem with doing that. So it's a component that we've seen great success with our clients practicing a really efficient hinge, getting fairly violent slamming something on the ground. But where we always felt that it was vulnerable was as they would try to hinge squat back to pick the ball up. It was such a deep squat, they had to bend over. They had to round their backs to get it.
Right.
So as soon as you put them on the knees, that goes away. So that's kind of our I would say our older adult advanced clientele, or just our kind of our general population. They would do that workout A. They have 4 sets of 8. And we have certain ones up there where we kind of indicated, like the Roosevelt rack squats, we're going as heavy as we can. As heavy as they can confidently do this, and we just look at their posture and watch them as they do. So they get their 4 rounds done, and then we went to the presidential burnout. So we have the Garfield glute bridges.
Let me cut you off real quick.
Sure.
This workout A, is there a locked amount of time that they have to do it, or is it however long it takes you to finish?
However long. The workout A, the name of our business is Be Stronger Fitness. So our strength component always comes first. So if a brand new client, if it takes them 35 minutes to do workout A, that is the biggest priority for me for that day after our movement and mobility prep, which would be a whole nother talk. That's a whole nother whiteboard to show you.
Okay.
But the strength priority has to come first. So if they can knock out 4 sets of 8 in 20 minutes and we're ready to roll, we've got another 30 minutes to do the burnout. If it takes them 45 minutes to do the workout A, then we do that and we finish with a cool down. But that's the biggest priority of our day. That has to come first for us every time.
Okay.
So we address that. Whenever that's finished, then they get into presidential, and you'll see it says underneath presidential burnout up to 5 rounds. We have some clients that they had enough time to do 1, and others that did all 5. And it just depends on how efficient they are and how quickly they move through. And the reason we program it that way, it leaves an open end on programming where if I say do 3 rounds and you have a client that's in very good shape, they crank through that and they want to do more. Well, now you've had other clients that, their goal was to get to 3 and they've had someone else basically bury them. Right. So there's a little feel of like, man, Lori, she's in great shape. And I only did 3 and she did 5. Then you have the other way where if I say, do 3 rounds and they only get 1 done. Well, now, they're sitting there going, I'm so out of shape. I can't keep up with the group. Right. So we'll put in there, do up to 3 rounds, do up to 5 rounds, do between 2 and 4 rounds, like whatever I know programming wise and time wise, they're going to have, some option to get to. And then we'll have some clients say, well, was I supposed to do 5? And I'll say, well, that is a great goal for us to drive to. But for right now, we're working with the components you have. So I think you should be able to get to a point where you can get 5 rounds in here? I do. I program everything to be efficiently done in 60 minutes from start to finish. Right. And that's just 20 years of doing this job. I know what can be done. And we have clients that do that, and they even have time at the end to do some extra stretching or whatnot. And then other ones, they get 1 round done and we're out of time, and we have goals for next time. So we program that on purpose. The most prioritized movements that we need done in the day are done in that first workout A.
Got it.
And then they get into the burnout here. We glute bridge a lot. I love to bridge. I think it's one of the best movements we can do out there. I'm not huge on hip thrusting with a barbell. We have hip thrusters. We do them with bands, all kinds of different progressive resistance. I love that. But with my Yeah, with my demographic, hip replacements, knee replacements, the back injuries and such, you start loading barbells onto hips. For the healthy hip, I think it's great. For my clients, it's just not, super comfortable.
Sure.
So this bridge particular, I know it says it real small there, but this glute bridge, we're using 2 bags. We're using the Alpha Strong sandbags, and we're practicing the idea of having a load spread out across their body more than just a barbell at the hip.
Right.
So they have a sandbag on their lap and another sandbag on top of that. So they're having to really stabilize 2 bags on their body while they bridge.
Right.
And we do that on purpose to teach them how to utilize their upper body when bridging. Because usually the arms just sit there. But when you have 2 bags, you have to balance. You now have to brace with your arms. You have to lock your shoulders down. You have to lock your arms in. Now your whole body's bridging, not just the lower half, right?
Right.
So we'll manipulate the load basically we put on them. The tricep extensions, the Truman triceps, these are just resistant bands hanging from the ceiling, and we're doing just like a cable push down, but with bands.
Sure.
The Coolidge bicep curls, just regular old hammer curls. They go from neutral at the bottom, little supination at the top.
Sure.
We have the Clinton calf pumps. They're on a 6-inch, 45-pound bumper plate, leaning in at about 45 degrees. And we do all of our calf development, all of our pumps on both feet. We don't do any single legs anymore. And the reason we do that is some recent research showed that the shortening of an Achilles under load, which typically when you're on one foot, you're not getting the max range of motion you would get with both feet.
Right.
It's actually leading to more injury. So we try to favor the idea of increasing range of motion and being able to get a little more load on them. So we always use both feet, but we'll overload. We'll hold a 30-pound dumbbell in the right hand and do 10 pumps, and then put it in the left hand and do 10 pumps.
Right.
And so now we're working on each leg, having a little more load to it, but it has the support of the other leg. It keeps everything else stable and simple, and they can work a pretty good range of motion, while they're going down.
Sorry to cut you off, but you said they're on a 45-pound plate, right?
Yeah, ours are they're rogue plates, so they're 5 inches, 6 inches, something like that. Yeah.
Cool. And
then we did wader walks, Washington wader walks. We use fat bells. I love fat bells, like center mass training for the hand. So we'll hold those, at shoulder height, and they walk, about 150 meters outside. They're going down and back, and then they'll just keep cycling through that. And we call it rest as recovery. So basically, you take as much rest as you need to feel like you're recovered to go again. And we have some clients that just crank out 5 rounds straight. They don't even stop for water. And then I have others that do a round and they have to sit down and take a 4 or 5 minute break, and then they go again. And that allows us to, train multiple people at different levels, but all in the same, platoon, the same team of people moving forward. So as that's going, we have something called being chosen. So anytime you're chosen, I'll say, John, you're chosen. And you look up to the weight gods and you go, I've been chosen. And all of our clients do this. And it's whatever thing that we've picked for the day. It could be a prowler push. It could be a sled drag. It could be a run outside, whatever we're doing. And so for this day, we had the Donald carpet drags. So we had a carpet inside. We have something called the magic carpet. And we did, basically it's a sled you can do inside. And they drag, they would drag anywhere from, 115 to 300 pounds. Around the weight room. Right. And so we just kind of call it an on-call exercise. Whenever I call you, you've been chosen. You yell to the gods, you've been chosen, and then you come over and grab the sled and off you go. So we put that in, the chosen, to everything. Okay. We have another gentleman we call the Sheriff of Cleanliness. He's a big cleaner. He loves to clean everything, so that's his nickname. He's coming in what we call second strength, 2 days in a row. So I created kind of a separate one for him, a log workout. So that's the one you see on the Timmerman program. I could do a whole nother talk on the Timmerman program. Timmerman is knee, hip, and back sensitive training. And this is a program that started from a story I heard about Ulf Timmerman back in the 80s, blowing out his ACLs, and they just hinged him for 18 months, and he came back and set a world record. And he was a shot putter for, at the time, it was East Germany. And great story. I don't know if it's true. It was told to me, but the philosophy, the idea of the training is phenomenal. So we do that with a lot of our older clients, and any of them that are having any issues there. So yeah.
So the Timmerman program was an alternative to Strength First, to this top right that I'm looking at. So correct. The top right is an hour-long workout, or for somebody that was doubling up that day. Now, is the Timmerman program specific to Gen Pop, or is that for older adults as well?
It's for typically older adults or any of our general pops that have had, a major knee, hip, or back injury. Okay. So really, our average client's 63. So we're looking at clients anywhere from 45 to 80, and any of them, generally speaking, are going to kind of be considered older adults. The majority of them are going to shift over to that Timmerman board if they have one of those limitations.
Okay.
And so you'll still see, you still see the Truman triceps, the Coolidge curls. It's pieces of what we had, but there are some reductions in some of the impacts that we're doing. Some of the foot pressures, knee pressures. There's less knee flexion action going on the Timmerman board. We do no split squats, no lunging with them. We do a lot of vertical step ups, horizontal step, progressive step up components. We'll stagger their feet a lot with bridging components. So we work extension at the hip just in a different plane, a different action. And that's really the biggest one for us. All their hinges, rarely will they be done vertically. Most of the hinges will be done horizontally. So they're laying down, with feet elevated, shoulders elevated, etc. So we really address, working at deloading the injured area and building the strength around it with the goal of getting them back to workout A, getting them back to strength first over there if we can.
Okay. All right. So the Timmerman program is kind of like it's a scaled version from workout A. Okay.
Absolutely. And on this particular day, Linda and Cooper, both of them just happen to be individuals that have been in boots for injuries they've had, one to the foot and one to the knee. They've been cast basically or booted. And so we called them the bootless wonders because they both just got their boots off. So they've been able to, participate in regular movement again, but with the Timmerman protocol to kind of help them bridge this gap back. Cooper being 18 years old, Linda being 56 years old, both were able to program for the same thing. He's a discus thrower. She's a cyclist, a mountain bike cyclist. So, we look at the outcome of what they have, but the injury, the priority right now is the physical limitation. And that's what we program for this day.
Okay.
And then the last board there on the left, this is our ADL plus group. So our strong group of older adults that, are not quite at the level where they're ready to do strength first and get all 5 rounds in and kind of get to that component. And we have pieces of the Timmerman component. It's kind of a marriage of the two. Okay. So you'll see that landmine Lincoln, the Lincoln press that's over there. Instead of doing the racked squats with the 2 dumbbells, we put them to, we call the Grover goblet squat. We gave them 1 weight in the middle instead of 2, just a little less pressure for them to work on each shoulder. They're able to put it together. They're doing a Reagan reclined row versus an inverted row. So instead of getting completely upside down, 90 degrees, they're back at maybe 45. So we take a little pressure off there.
Sure.
The ball slam components, a lot of our older adults with frozen shoulders or shoulder injuries, they can't get the ball all the way over their head to slam it. So with these individuals, we had a component where we are working the same range of motion or a max range of motion, but we're using bands. So we have a very, very thin, like a 1/4 inch band that maybe doubled as 15 pounds. And they're standing on that band, raising their arms as high as they can over their head, front raise, lateral raise, whatever angle doesn't bother them. And we're doing time under tension with that. So they have a 3-second up, a 3-second hold, and a 3-second down. And it just lights up their shoulders, right? So it's whatever's uncomfortable there, uncomfortable in a good way.
And that's what the 3-3-3 is for
that's that, you have eccentric, concentric, and then your isometric, your hold there. So that's our component on that.
Cool.
And then we have bridges. If they can take 2 bags, we'll do it. We have the same curls. We have the same calf pumps. And then the waiter walks, they went about 75 meters. Some of them did the 150.
Cool.
So we've got some areas, out there that are marked off. And if they're able to do the longer distance, we really look at their gait control and how well they can walk. I'd rather them walk with a good gait. We call it carries as opposed to like farmer walks or waiter walks, because we're looking at the idea of, we want to replicate or improve their gait, but when you're carrying load, it's a smaller gait. It's shorter, it's smoother, it's really quick in the turnover. So we want them to almost, we use the cue like you're walking on ice. It's just a little bit smaller step and it's careful, as they go through. So if they can do that and their gait is comfortable and it's smooth and we can load them like pretty well, then we'll load them up. I'd rather them carry a heavier load in a shorter distance than start wobbling, lumbering. We call it when they're wobbling side to side, et cetera, for a longer distance. So we program that in pretty good. And it's very general command. I'm the general. I stand back and I command everything that I see, and I'm cueing and I'm coaching and I'm just nitpicking all this little stuff. And I mean nitpick in a good way. I mean, that's, the eye of the coach is to see all these things and to coach it and to cue it and to fix it. and to tell them why they're doing that. So the next time this comes around in the cycle, or the next time it comes in the component, it might need a reminder, but then they're good. And this becomes this practice of, he's not just nitpicking me about my foot being dorsiflexed. I now know why my foot needs to be dorsiflexed. That makes sense to me.
Right.
So I'm going to continue to practice to do that because I need better balance. I need a higher gait when I do my, whatever the case is. So we lead every explanation with education to let them know, basically like I just did, talking to you about the calf pumps, talking about the waders, why we do the shoulders. Like I tell them all that stuff.
Right.
And it's not all in one day, but I tell them all that. So as we go through, they're leaving every day going, I feel like I'm in good hands. This person's coaching me and they're teaching me, and I'm starting to, figure this out, why he picks all this stuff. It's not just, I'm driving in thinking, ball slams would be fun today. That was my second hinge component, inverted rows. Well, that's my primary row component, and I've got that broken all the way down. As simple as I want it to be, I have simple horizontal rows. I have simple vertical rows. I have complex vertical rows. I have complex, horizontal rows. I've got this, charted all the way out to where I know exactly what I want. I know the blueprint components for each one, but what exercise I pick, sky's the limit. I can pick whatever I want. I can pick any hinge. I just need a vertical hinge, right?
Right.
And you can plug all that in. Yeah. It's just having a recipe.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. So the warm up in the bottom right is pretty standard. That's for everybody.
That's for everybody. As long as they're capable of squatting, they're capable of pressing overhead. We have that. Right underneath movement is life are two. We kind of have like a Timmerman warm up. If they have a shoulder sensitive issue, there's a variation of this warm up that does not take them overhead. So they would do the Kennedy squats, and then they would do a shoulder raise variation or check press or something that, they've been defaulted to help improve their physical limitation at the shoulder. And then same at the hip. So instead of doing a Kennedy squat, they were doing like an RDL, a kettlebell RDL or a single leg RDL to address the limitation that they had. And the goal is to erase that limitation if we can, to get them to the point where they're doing that general warm up. Right. So that's one big board, and that's just a little snapshot of the very top bit. If they're generally okay, then we do that warm up. They do that twice. They have 2 minutes on the Airdyne bikes, the assault bikes, and then they're ready to roll. If they aren't, then we have, some personal primers and stuff below that they can address. And then when we get done, basically everybody knows, and we're kind of instructed to, if your workout starts at 7 and you're done at 8, about 5 minutes till, you have to go to the burnout or the cool down. And since we had a presidential burnout on the main board, this is just a cool down. So we had some band clams and some scapula push-ups. And ideally we want them to do those rep counts unbroken, meaning not stopping until they finish their other side of 40, instead of breaking it up and doing 30 and they're like, this burns, and they rest for 10 seconds and do 10 more. They can do that, but the goal is to get them to these rep counts, in an unbroken fashion. So we set those numbers pretty high in this case because, we've had other areas addressed through the workout. These are lacking areas. We haven't done a whole lot of lateral stability stuff through the workout for the hip, so we address that in the cool down. Same with the scapula. We only had one retraction-based movement. That was our row, our Reagan rows. Everything else was retraction holding, but we didn't get repetitive motion. So that's where the scapula push-up comes in. We're able to work on that retraction in there. So whatever I feel like we've missed, or if there's a particular group of folks that we need to address, one more thing, a little bit extra, that cool down will then reflect, that need.
Okay. So not to complicate things, but I think I've got it all. So you don't always have a burnout for the workout.
We have a burnout. We'll have a Metcon. We'll have a finisher. It just depends on the day of programming. We do a 12-week. I call it a mini macro cycle. Since we're not looking at culminating dates for most of our clients, they don't have an event they have to be ready for or a date they have to be in shape by. We just basically pick a 3-month cycle that we do, a 2-week introduction training program. We pre-assess. I don't like that word assess, but talking, colleague to colleague, we do a pre-assessment. We do, 4 or 5 tests, whatever we're doing. We train for 8 weeks. We post-assess, and then we have a week of reevaluation or deload week to kind of allow their body to recover. And so through that cycle, some weeks we have burnouts. And burnouts are going to be, anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes. Metcons are going to be greater. We're going to be upwards of 30 minutes. And then finishers are going to be really short. They're going to be, 5 minutes or less.
Right.
So sometimes in our workout A, we'll have, 5 or 6 lifts, and then they'll have a finisher that's, push the prowler down and back 4 times and you're done.
Right.
And they'll come in and they'll see the cool downs, 200 glute bridges, and to do that as unbroken as possible. So they get quite a burn. They get quite a workout. But when you look at the board, you're like, we only did 6 things, but we did a lot of that.
Right.
And then other days you get this, it's this, this big smorgasbord of stuff. You come out here, whoa, this is a lot of work. And they leave going, we accomplished a lot, but it just kind of depends on what we're addressing, what the need of the macro cycle demands that day. And we have some deload weeks built in. We also have some unload weeks built in. And where the difference with an unload will be, with deload, we're trying not to lift really anything heavy. We're trying to allow the joints to recover.
Right.
With unloading, instead of doing an hour of hard work, we're going to do like 8 minutes of hard work. Mm-hmm. And so we might have 4 stations, and they're going to just blast a minute at each one. We'll have the inertia waves at one. We'll have the speed bike at another. We'll, have the Skirg set up on another, and we'll have med ball returns. And so all 4 cardiovascular components, and for a minute, they have to get just wasted, everything they've got. And, with an older adult, it might be a 50%. And they're like, this is rough. I'm going to suffer from this in a good way. Yeah. Where with some of our others that are well-trained, they're going at 90%. So I just leave it to them. Push yourself for a minute. If I don't think you're pushing as hard as I think you can, I'll let you know. But, I have the dad expectation. I'm not a yeller. I'm not a screamer. But they know, the expectation is there. And if in some way I relay to them that they're not giving the effort that I think they should, they feel it, and they're like, I'm not doing what you want today. Sorry, coach, or sorry, dad. I'll have some of them say, like, they get that feeling in there, and I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. I'd rather be that than the come on, maggot. You're I don't have that mentality in me. And some people do, some businesses do. I'm cool with it. It's just, this is the way that I coach.
Right.
And so I set this expectation. This is what I think you can do. And if they're not achieving that, I let them know. And they, they'll step up, or they'll let me know what's happening, and we'll recover. But, it just depends on the programming. But if you took, Nebraska and UCLA and some of these, high level, really well detailed strength coach programs, and you brought up their macro cycles and you saw the detail that they put in and the thought and the processing, ours is extremely similar. We're just not percentage based,
right?
Because I don't have 1 reps for any of my folks. We have some 8 rep maxes, but like a video I put up earlier today, we had some 75, 80-year-old clients doing sit to stands with 40-pound dumbbells, and they do 8 of them, and then they set it down, and they're like, that was really good. Was that their max? Hell no. I mean, they definitely could have done more.
Right.
But they did 8 comfortably, like they owned it. And to me, that's like, okay, that's where we're at. If we did a 45, maybe they would have rounded a little bit. Maybe their knees would have buckled. I'm looking for, the athlete that I have working within their limitation. I don't like that saying, know your limitations and exceed them. I think that's when you get hurt. When you do that, right? I want to train you to a point where you can elevate your expectation. You can elevate your abilities, right? To know your ability and to train well to that. That's when you become a really, healthy and active and capable and powerful person. But when you exceed those, when you're trying to exceed those, that's what I did. And my body's all jacked up. I've had 3 hip replacements and back surgeries and everything. I think we over push to this point of thinking that we're unbreakable and that we're going to, be able to train our way to a better level. You have to train your way to a smarter level. Right. And once you succeed at that, then now we can set a new bar and pursue that, but it's a smart way of training. And I think that the second you overtrain one of your clients, an injury occurs. And when you injure somebody, that hurts your reputation, that hurts the client's progress. There's only bad things that come from that. Right. But if I continually just slightly undertrain my clients, and we do that for years, we're going to keep taking steps. Right. We might not take bounds. Yeah. But we're going to keep taking steps. And by the time we're there, we're at the top, when you're 20, you might be able to take 3 steps at a time. We're taking 1, we get there though. And that's the whole idea of good programming. You got to be able to do this for 40 people, and we can do it within, 4 or 5 workouts and modify each component for each of them. That's personal training in a group format.
Right. I like it. I like it. And you know, it's funny when I first saw it, I was like, "Whoa, what is going on here?"
Yeah.
But when you break it down, and I very much agree with you. Like, if I'm looking for a hinge, there are a million different exercises that I can choose from. Or if I'm looking for, in my case, a pull, or in my case, a push, there are a million different exercises I can choose from. It's just how much of each movement are you going to allocate to a workout, and how are you going to scale that for each person. So, you know, looking at this, I can see why. And can I tell you guys, sometimes I text people when I'm setting up for my workout, and I live on the East Coast. I'm usually at my gym at 4 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, and I texted Robert forgetting that he's on the West Coast, and I'm like, oh God, he's probably sleeping. And then he responded like, he puts a lot of work, and you have to put a
Yeah.
lot of work and a lot of time into this. You just can't throw it up because you think it's going to be cool for the day, you know. And that's just a testament to, you know, the amount of effort and care that you put into your clients. And it's a lot. I feel so much smarter now. You have no idea. Like, I actually, I'm going to pick your brain more about the ball slams, kneeling versus standing.
Sure.
I've often thought about that, but I didn't really have my Gen Pop people doing it. So I think this video has gone on long enough because I want people, yeah, you said that you could share, you know, things with me, but I want people to go to your page. You're not hard to find, all right? Your name is Robert Linkul. If you go to Facebook, I doubt there are that many Robert Linkuls out there.
I'm the only one.
Yeah, so just search his name and friend the guy. This guy is super, like, I wish that I had this kind of resource online when I was first really starting on my own, and you guys are getting it for free. You know, like, this is such high level training. I don't think I can impart to you guys how important it is that you follow as many trainers that have good technique as possible, because it's only going to make you better. Even if you don't follow things verbatim, you know, at least it's going to raise the level of what you have, and that you're not just, you know, throwing things out from, you know, any magazine.
And they shouldn't follow verbatim. I mean, that's, you know, I've heard coaches say, you know, well, if you're not going to follow my program to the T, then I can't guarantee your result. And I understand that. But this is from coach to coach. If I'm going from coach to client, I completely agree with that. You know, if the client's 2 weeks in and they're like, well, I'm not losing the weight or gaining the strength that I want, and I said, well, are you doing exactly what I've programmed, or are you adding in your own stuff? You're not giving yourself the recovery I wanted. You're not, you know, eating the foods that we need, whatever the case might be, right? But from coach to coach, you know, you even talked about it. We call them rows, you call them pulls. We don't do horizontal pushes, you do. Like, that's your philosophy, that's your programming. That's all I'm saying you need. When you're driving to the gym and you're just thinking and making stuff up of what you're going to do that day, you're not a professional, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way, like you need to get lost. I think you need to step your game up. And that's what I want to teach. That's why we're doing this, and why I want to show it to you. You should have your own blueprint. And some people do horizontal push, horizontal pull, vertical push, vertical pull, squat. That's fine, right? But with my demographic, with my equipment and my space, with my philosophy, this is mine, right? And we should all have our own. But you got to have a rhyme and a reason to what you're doing. If I ask you why to anything on your board, you should be able to give me an answer. And it frustrates me in my end, and I think I'm speaking for you too. It's when somebody can't do that. I don't know, it's hard, or I don't know, I just thought it would be good. You're like, dude, why? Why would you even put it up there then, right?
Right.
You can't answer the question, why? Don't put it on the board. Keep it simple and do what you know. And if you don't know, learn more. And I think you learn from as many pros as you can. That helps you design and create, and your brain's just this funnel of stuff. It's going to come down to something.
Sure.
That'll be your philosophy. So I completely agree with you on that. And I love it that, you know, you even said it. I don't follow exactly what you're saying. You shouldn't. It shouldn't be verbatim. I think you should, you know, design your own thought process on this. But until you're exposed to a bunch of them, how do you know what it is? I need to hear ideas to say, I don't agree with that.
Right.
You know, you need to hear other ideas to say, oh, I like that one. Right. And I might have 5 or 6 people, and now I'm going to take these pieces and I'm going to build it my way. I love that.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Like, the only way that I got better was from just learning from more trainers, and I'm continuing, like, nobody is like hit the mountaintop, you know, not myself, not you. Like, we're always learning. You have to constantly learn. And that's why I changed the name of this channel from How to Sell Personal Training to Team Fit Boss, because it's more about learning how to give the right service so that you can be successful. All right. If you learn how to convince people by talking really slick, that you're not helping the population out there. So yeah, Rob, Bobby the Brain, thanks so much.
My pleasure.
Again, if people want to find you, all they got to do is search YouTube for your name, Robert Linkul. They can go to trainingtheolderadult.com.
Yes, sir.
All right. Everybody should be able to spell that, but if you can't, here, let me stop sharing this, and then I'll put it underneath our names. To be able to go to trainingtheolderadult.com, or you can go to just Facebook and just go like, hey, I was following Jonathan's videos, and you're so much smarter, so let me follow you. I don't care what you do. Just learn and get better so you can help people. That's all I care about.
I agree, and I'm here to share as much as I can. So I really appreciate the plug. Thank you. But I am really happy to share with people and to help them develop their skills. So yeah, please do.
All right, so guys, you know what to do. If you the first time watching this channel, subscribe to this channel, but make sure you head over to Robert. This is not the last time we're going to be talking, so if you have any questions, send them my way. If you have any for Robert, I'll forward them over to you, but do your due diligence. Follow him yourself, and I will leave you guys. I'll be back next week, and as always, remember to eat healthy, hydrate, drive safe, stress levels, all get rest, don't slap anybody, love your clients, say I love you back. I'll see y'all tomorrow or the next day, and you have a good one, Bobby the Brain.
See you guys. Thank you.
Good one.